How to raise an emotionally intelligent child or children. Listen to my story on what I learned, see if it can help you on your journey. And as you listen to this story, one thing I'll tell you is don't be a Dave. All of us want to raise great children. We have desires for them. We want them to be happy in their lives. And as parents, we want nothing more than their happiness and success. But raising them becomes pretty hard. Why is it so hard? Why is it such a struggle to raise emotionally intelligent children? What I'd like to do today is share with you some of my best learnings as a parent and how I was able to improve my ability as a parent to help in raising my children to be more emotionally intelligent in their lives and gain greater success in the things that they chose to follow. In fact, it was so important to me that I actually designed and developed a whole company around this idea that can help me to achieve a mission that I wrote some 20 some odd years ago that I'm going to share with you later this morning. So what I'm going to share with you are 3 key elements of my home before, my home during, and my home after. And the things that I was able to do in each of those phases that helped me to be more successful as a dad and a husband. So when I started my journey, I was a victim. And victims then begin to blame those around us for what's happening in their lives. And so for me to be able to really begin my journey of becoming a better parent, a better husband, a better human, I needed to begin with truly understanding where I was and what I needed to do to change. Here we are, the home before. So here's a short story I'll tell you that I'm not as proud of, but yet we can laugh about it as a family because it was just a great experience. But I'd gone through these courses. I learned how to be an effective person. I went through this course called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And as I sat through that class, I remember very distinctly thinking, this class is exactly what my wife needs. And this class, and the principle of this class is exactly what my children need. It was funny because nowhere in that did I think that I needed to have any part in that it was my job now to bring that in to my family, to my kids. So we talked about earlier when I introduced us as hard hats and helmets. It's kind of a sad story, but I would find myself coming home at the end of a day. I'd be walking up the steps to my house, and there'd be all my 5 children at the front window looking out at me. And I thought, oh, how awesome is that? They're all here. They're so excited to see Dad. I didn't find out till years later that really what was really happening is they were wondering which dad was going to walk up the doorstep. They could tell by my expressions, by the look on my face, whether I was going to be the dad that gave hugs and brought happiness into the home, or they needed to run and put on their helmets and flak jackets because they didn't know exactly what was going to happen when I walked into the home. It's kind of sad to think that that's how they actually felt, but that was the reality of the kind of human that I was. There was no consistency in my behavior. I was literally driven by what was happening each day, and I brought that home. So now I begin this journey with my family to try to improve. Well, the way that I was going to improve was to get them to improve, right? So it goes back to don't be a Dave. This is one of those don't be a Dave moments. Because the reality is that if I really wanted my family to improve, then I needed to improve first. And that's what moves us into the next stage of now how do we begin in my home to change the home environment? So what I realized is that I had this experience where I brought everybody together and said, let's create a family mission statement. I was pretty excited about this. And we got everybody in a room. I got the whiteboard up. I had the markers. We read this story about what a great family would be like. And then I posed a question to all of my children sitting on the couch with my wife. And I said, so if you could define the perfect family, what would it be like? Now I can tell you, I already knew what I wanted my family mission statement to be. I already had it written out. I was just pretending like I was going to let them be involved in this process. So not knowing what I was trying to do, they started to say things like, well, we want a big house and we want really expensive cars and we want to be able to go on trips, because these are things that they saw their friends do and they associated that as happiness, and that great families and perfect families had all of these things. After about 15 or 20 minutes, one of my proudest moments was when I took all the pins in my hand and I looked at my children and my wife sitting on the couch and I said, okay, that's it. And I threw the pins down on the floor and I stomped out of the room. Now that wasn't one of my proudest moments, but the reality is that they weren't getting it. They weren't understanding what I was trying to do. And what I really realized is that I wasn't understanding what I was trying to do. So that was my home before the change. So now fast forward, we're now in this idea of, well, how can I improve? So what I was able to do was I decided, well, if mission statements are important, then I probably should get one because I didn't have one. And so it took me about a year and I worked on a mission statement. I went and hired a coach. I knew it was important and I couldn't do it on my own. And so I hired a coach and I worked with him every week in developing and defining what I refer to as my personal constitution. Now, as I was writing and developing that personal constitution, in that I had to define what my mission was, what my purpose was. I had to define what my values were and clarify those values into actual written statements. Had to identify what my strengths and what my weaknesses were, and many other kinds of things were important to really ground myself. And then I began to work on it. Because what I realized is that if I looked at my mission statement, I actually have a copy of it here I can share with you. This is my personal constitution. Had it for almost 20 years. Hasn't changed much, but it has improved a little bit over the years. But as I looked at this and reviewed this on a regular basis, I was able to assess my current behavior against what I would want to be, my future behavior. And I realized that there was gaps, and I began to close those gaps and had experiences like, as I'm trying to become more compassionate, compassion is one of my values. As I try to become more compassionate, I failed miserably lots of times. But each time I failed, I got a little bit better at being more compassionate. And over the year following the development of my personal mission statement, my family witnessed me changing and me improving and me becoming a better dad, a better husband, a better human. And so as I began to work on that and they saw the change, it took about 2.5 years. And what ended up happening was about 2.5 years later, I said, hey, what do you guys think about creating a family mission statement? And the family now, after all this has happened, so the phase 3 of this now is that they all said, we would love to do that. And we sat down and they wrote our family mission statement. Whether they were 6 years old or 12 years old, my wife took words and phrases and turned them into something that was just amazing. We created this family mission statement that for the next 15 years became our guiding post of how we will behave towards each other as a family. Now, why were we able to do that? It's because they saw me do that at a personal level, which then gave them the encouragement and the confidence that we could do it as a family. So that's what I want to be able to share with you today, is that if you really want to help raise emotionally intelligent children, then you need to become emotionally intelligent at yourself first. And you begin that journey by doing these 3 things. Write your mission, identify your values and clarify them, and then begin on a weekly basis to align yourself to that mission, to that personal constitution. And as you do, those around you will see you differently, and you'll be able to improve every aspect of your life. I've just shared with you a very personal story. I know how hard it is to raise children today. But for you, begin your journey, click below and take our free assessment and get started today on working on yourself. If you'd like to learn more how to raise an emotionally intelligent child or children, then click here. We've created lots more videos to be able to help you and your family on your journey.